T-minus 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Launch Sequence Podcast. It's episode 67, and we've got two classics back on the show today, Execute and TheAstroPub. How are you both doing today?
Doing good.
Tired?
Yeah.
It's that time of the year.
It's not even. It's that time of the year. It's not even. We're not even in October yet. Like wait till October. We'll be old men walking. By October.
Yeah. Oh boy, I haven't even started really thinking about what October is going to bring this year in terms of Star Citizen, because it's all so weird. But today we're going to talk mostly about the ship showdown that's going on right now and the ships that are being shown down. It's a good one. As well as some of the future ships that we might be expecting, and a couple of more just kind of hypothetical questions about ships, because we are the ship people. This is actually the Inforunners crew, really. This is a large part of the Inforunners crew, and also a large part of pretty regular Captain's Table guests, I would say. So we're all pretty used to talking to each other about this stuff. But yeah. Have you guys
I always say these, whenever we get together, it's a secret Inforunners episode.
Yeah.
On Tomato's channel.
It's
That's what it is, so.
basically just hijacking it for a week. But I appreciate you guys coming on. Thank you. Have you been following this showdown closely? Have you been getting involved, voting, talking about it much?
We had Paul drop by on our stream on Friday, and
Thursday.
we talked a bit of
Thursday.
Friday. Well, yeah.
Your Friday, future Friday, past Thursday.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about it then, and Paul and my votes were almost identical. So. Yeah, actually, we should start with you, Space. You tell us what the ships that you would vote for, and we'll tell you how close we were.
Oh, geez. I actually didn't even... Do they allow you to, make a bracket and then save it? Is that a thing?
No,
No,
but
they should, though. They should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That seems like a very obvious thing to do, because that's what people do with, March Madness and stuff. You compare and you make bets and, money. We love trading money. So I'm just looking at the rounds and the lineups, and I'm very disappointed at how difficult a path the Terrapin has forward, because the Terrapin probably would have been my first pick, probably that or the Pisces, just in terms of kind of feel goodness I get from the ship, I guess. But to be honest, I'm just looking at the lineup now and I'm thinking, it could be any number of ships that win. It's actually a pretty solid group, I think. Did you guys have any particular getting all the way to the top?
I kind of like how they grouped them this time around. So they put them into 4 groups, which made it a bit fairer.
Yeah.
Where previous years it was just randomly done. So they did do a little bit of thinking this time around, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, they have the Explorer group, they have the Industrial group, the Combats, and then that last group is kind of, I don't know, I think...
The Mavericks is what they call it.
Yeah?
Something like that. It's the wild cards, so...
Yeah. The Transformer group, more than meets the eye.
Just don't worry about this group. Just go look at the other 3. So what are your...
I will say personally, I have not followed this as much as previous years. Like last year was my year, was the year that I really pushed for it, and it's the year that everyone blames me for, even though it was Redler's idea in the first place.
Yeah, I saw.
Which was the year of our king, a short orange king, the MPUV.
Short and
Long
powerful.
May she reign.
Yes.
Yeah.
Long live the MPUV. I saw on the Inforunners episode, somebody was asking, what's the point if one content creator was able to do all of that? It's like, Paul, so powerful, omnipresent.
I call me Thanos, because in a snap I can take your ship away.
Your ship is gone.
Well, speaking of snaps, then let's talk about the PTV real quick, because I think in a weird turn of phrase that really won already, didn't it?
Won the hearts and minds.
Well, we've seen a kind of leaked image that everyone's going to get one for free, and they've also said that we're all going to get a skin for it when they do it next year. So I'm happy about that.
Hmm.
I guess I put that out to you, Paul, because I know you and I talked about it briefly already. But do you feel like it was stolen, or do you still think it kind of won because of what they're doing with it?
I think CIG didn't want to have the butthurt that happened last year.
Yeah.
Because if those of you who weren't around here last year, because I know there's a lot of new people in the community, which we'll talk about here in a moment, I'm sure.
Mhm.
Last year, everyone was taking it very, very seriously, and people like myself and Execute and many other content creators were kind of taking the piss. But we also
Kind of.
we had our
was a
own
message.
reasons.
It was a message.
It wasn't about who win. It was about sending a message, and the message was stop doing this because this is broken. Because it's all you're going to do is have the biggest, most expensive ships at the winner bracket, and then not everyone, like only whales will ever get skins for this, and it's just no one will participate. No one cares if it's just always going to be if it's a contest of whales. No one
I'm
cares.
pretty sure. I'm pretty sure we had like a discussion about that on this podcast last year, and I made sure to make a highlight video out of that where you were explaining that.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, and I remember watching that highlight and I had seen people in the comments being like, oh, that makes a lot more sense with why they're doing it. It's like, yeah, it's because we didn't just do the MPUV for the lulz. It was because it, A, it's a cool little ship and the idea behind it is really nice. And B, it's super cheap and everyone can buy it. And even CIG realized, dear God, we sold a lot of these MPUVs because it was $25 and people would throw $25 in for the meme and or for the skin.
Oh my gosh, that made people so mad.
Yeah, and I think that was like I said, that was the year, that was the kind of thing. But this year's a little different. Like I'll go through my rundown, and I guess X can go after that because I think you were going to ask us that before I hijack some of that. But so far, the people who won are the people who I thought won. By the way, for your audience, I'm sorry, I'm coming off of COVID, so my cough is going to be intermittent.
Oh wait,
So
wrong way.
The Rona episode.
The Rona episode. I'm fine though. It was nothing more like a mild head cold, and so it's just lasting longer. So the what I thought so far is winning. The Redeemer won, and then the Scorpius is one.
Just gonna sit over here for the rest of the episode where it's safe. No.
But yeah, the Redeemer won, the Scorpius won. I thought the Terrapin might win this one because the Terrapin has a little bit more of a hardcore following. So far, that's not the case as the recording, though it is coming back. So, but it's got a long hill to climb.
Yeah.
In 3 hours.
By the time we're done here, it'll be picked, right? Yeah.
It'll be done. The Karrakin 400i, that's a toss-up. I think it's going to be a close one, like the 600i and the Terrapin, because.
Can I just ask then? I don't know I'm interrupting. But I'm surprised the 600i's got so many votes for a ship at its price point. I'm surprised. Like,
Gold standard
surprises me.
Yeah, I think it's the rework hype.
Really?
Rework. Yeah, it's going to be a mini Carrack with the rework. So yeah, people are looking at that and going, I want a Carrack, but I don't want to spend, what is it, $600 for it. So you pay half that price and get a mini Carrack.
Yeah.
Well, it makes me think that the 400i is going to beat the Carrack then, just based on that alone.
Well, it's also the 600i is talked about and used often, and you see it in ISC. They've shown it in like different little demos for fires and stuff like that. It's been kind of in people's minds. Like you hear about it. The Terrapin, they don't really talk about that much.
You lay it out in your mind, those 4 ships. What one do you see in game most commonly?
400 and the 600.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah. I think you see the Carrack a lot too, but it's like one. You'll see like one Carrack in a server, whereas you'll see maybe 2 or 3 600s, especially if there's a combat situation. And everyone, like, it seems like everyone has a 400 they just pull out for like random.
400s like, everyone.
I think the Terrapin, a bit of it's got to do with its expense, because it is quite an expensive ship for its size. You know,
it's useless right now.
You're talking $40 and you're at an MSR. You know, and the original price of the MSR in concept was only $5 more than it back in the day. You know, so
which is crazy.
You can also see the
Mm,
Yeah. You can also see the Terrapin as a victim of memeing because it was super popular when it was first being released.
it
The
was.
little Terrapin came out
Turtle.
with its little animations. It was the turtle. People loved the idea of a tiny little thing, and they wanted to see like a rescue variant of that ship.
Yes.
So CIG recognized it was popular and went, let's put that price up. Let's put that price up a little bit, because then now people will purchase it because they want to.
Got an alien
And
tax.
kind
Got
of,
something.
yeah,
I don't know what it was. Beasting. I don't know what it was.
it's like the Vanguard, or not the Vanguard. What was it? It's like the steel, the Cutlass steel.
Ah.
Yeah.
It's way too pricey for what it actually does. But people purchased it because it was the it ship for a while. But now that time is come and gone. So now the Terrapin just looks like an overpriced box with no functionality. Like at least the steel has seats, where you can actually use it for something.
The Terrapin just has a giant empty room with a seat in the middle that doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
You can play Dr. Evil with it and just go, wee.
And that's they've always the Terrapin's always been a ship that I've wondered, are they going to rework that? Because that was the argument when it first came out, was like, look at all this space in this ship. You guys made a compact scout ship, and then you didn't make use of the space very well. Are you going to do anything with this? And I think they were kind of saying no back then, but I feel like they have to at this point because the standards of ships have just gone up so much. Do you think the Terrapin could end up seeing a rework?
They did say that it was going to be the ship that did the, when you component
stuff, yeah.
Yeah, it was going to be the groundwork for that, and I don't think that's eventuated.
I feel like that was back when they thought components were going to happen much earlier than they were. Yeah.
You can use that as an example. Another example of this is they keep saying every new species of fauna they create is the first species of fauna they put into the game. So, and that keeps being different. Like originally it was the
little floaty thing, right?
The little floaty thing, yeah. The blind oni crab, and then it was the Kazi grazer, the space cow, and then it was going to be the boreal stalker and the pyro crab, and now it's going to be the
space whale,
the storm wall.
Storm wall. So that's
they keep constantly think they're closer than they are to do something, and then something happens, and then it delays it like year or 2 years down the line. So they just So I think the current one for components is the Hammerhead. So
because they were doing the relays and stuff,
yeah. I think it's changed to be more relays than components, but what's the difference? Like they're very similar.
Yeah.
It's almost like components 2.0. It feels like an advancement of components.
It seems like the relay is kind of like the generic component that's thrown in to complete the full resource management loop kind of thing.
Yep. It's almost like solo versus multi-crew, because like the Terrapins, you're on your own, and then say something like the Hammerhead is more, as I said, multi-crew. Like when you got a dedicated engineer.
Yeah. So the this sort of difference in voting from what we expect, at least when we see the Terrapin versus the 600i. And it'll probably be something that comes up again throughout this ship showdown, is something we were talking about before the show started. Just this idea that people's voting tendencies are based a lot on when they came into the project because of the ships being focused on, the talk, what was hot, what wasn't. And I thought that was a really good point that you guys brought up, that we might be seeing more of a new player focus when it comes to the voting, as opposed to before when it was a lot more of kind of the old community and the ships that were already understood to be popular. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
You can go first, Paul.
Okay. I want to clarify this ahead of time because I can already see the comments and the screeching.
That's why I threw it to you. I don't want to be.
We're not saying that the old community is gone and dead. But
no,
I do believe that currently, or like that the old community's left, and there's that meme that goes around.
Oh, right, yeah.
That idea that there's all the old backers are gone, and CIG is going to constantly cycle through new backers from now on, and no one cares about the old backers. I don't think that's the case. I think at best the old backers are hibernation, but I also think that we've had such a huge spike in backers since 2020 that a lot of backers who are coming into the game now, a lot of players who are coming into the game now are from the last 6 months.
I think the number of votes reflect that. So I was saying to these
Yeah.
two guys before the show, we would historically, in the first round of voting, would have maybe the winner would be about 7,000 and the loser would be about 5,000. And if you actually have a look at the vote today, currently right now as I read this, there's 12,800 for one and about 11,300 for the other. So that is a drastic increase in numbers.
Yeah.
Usually it's not that many. We're not even talking about like how close they are. We're not talking about how many votes there are for each one.
Definitely more people
But that's
involved.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
So there's more people involved, and we were all surprised that the Terrapin wasn't doing as well as it would, because the Terrapin is the old favorite. Like I was saying, it was when it came out, it was super like for the price, it was super popular, and people have been talking about getting the Terrapin on the board for Ship Showdown for years. Thank you. Execute. It's okay. I'll cough to make up for that at some point. But as a result, you could see how the Terrapin is currently trailing, and to a 600i of all things, and that surprised all of us, because the 600i isn't. None of us think of it as that popular of a ship, but I could see it being more popular for players who weren't here for the Carrack LTI, who weren't here for the other major ship releases, and see the 600i Explorer as their ticket to an LTI exploration ship. And they may not even know what the Terrapin is, because, again, no one uses it.
That's what I was wondering, really, is like, how many people haven't actually seen a Terrapin? Because I don't see them. I can't remember the last time I saw one in game.
No one flies them. They're bad. They're just bad ships. Like, they don't have good guns. They're not very well in terms of speed. They're decent in terms of toughness, but their main purpose doesn't even exist in game yet.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I pull out the 600 just about every Friday for bar streams, where I RP as a RP with bartending and stuff like that.
It's a good point.
You know, and I know people who used to use it as a weapon, like the orca, the killer whale is a build out for a build for the 600
for bounty hunting. Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah.
So that's. Go ahead, X.
I was just going to say the Terrapin is basically a glorified Aurora that costs 4 times the price at the moment. You really can't do much more with it than box missions, as Paul was kind of alluding to with the guns.
Worse than an Aurora, because you can have Auroras can have 2 more guns.
Yep.
Yeah, fair.
That said, though, if you are teaching someone how to fly, it is the ship of choice, because they can crash it quite frequently.
Bounce around all over the place. Yeah. So that kind of points towards how voting might occur with this showdown, is that it really comes down to what people perceive to be the most important, and that annoys people because other ships that they might own but nobody really cares about never really gets that far into the showdown. As we keep going, right, I don't know when they're planning on stopping this or if they're planning on doing it forever, but do you see it just constantly being a battle of the newest 16 ships, basically?
No. The Cutlass is always going to be on that list. It's every year it's going to be on that list, because the Cutlass is just good.
Yeah.
It's better than a starter ship. It's everyone's second ship after getting the first ship, either purchasing in real life or in game. It's a really good handy ship that everyone can use, and it's very low skill ceiling and has lots of versatility. And that's the reason why the Cutlass is one out of like the last 3 of these. It's won 2 best in show. So it's or not one, but like been in the top 4 for the last 2. I think it won the first one. Like it hands down won the best in show the first.
Which is really funny.
Caterpillar won the first one.
Caterpillar won the first one, but
just want to put that out, because like since then I don't even think it's made the list after that. So that's the crazy thing.
Right, and that's kind of like what I'm talking. Like the choices weren't that wide ranging. I guess my question really comes down to: are these older ships, or even until the game comes out, are these ships that don't actually have much development going on for them going to be unfairly left out?
Oh yeah.
I think you could go back a step. Is the selection process weird because it requires someone to make art for it
Yeah.
and then post it on social media? Like not everyone likes to post on social media, and not everyone's good at making art.
Yeah, write a poem.
Haiku.
It's a popularity contest, and so anything that has the pull, the attention, and the drive will win. The you could see that with last year's MPUV, which was it was the meme ship, but it was also the popular ship to vote for, so everyone voted for it. To the chagrin of many people, which was salty and tasty. The cues were tasty. But the point being, like, look at any internet popularity contest. Bodie McBoatface, sending Pitbull to Alaska. There's so many times the internet will just hijack a poll that's supposed to be for one thing and then completely change it. What was it? Making Taylor Swift perform at a school for the deaf as a joke.
God. Oh, people are terrible.
Yeah. That's just there's so many examples. There's one that I'm not even talk about because if I say it, YouTube is going to nuke this video from orbit. Which look up the Mountain Dew naming competition is all I'm going to say, and you'll find out what I mean. So these sorts of things are always going to be like that. We're always going to see the most popular ships, the ships that have the newest or the best serving in game will get this treatment. That's why I think like the Cutlass is always going to be on there. It's always going to be close to the finalists.
Do you think that this will always go on? Like how? Let's say they have 200 ships. How is this ever going to? It feels like it's too many ships, right? At some point for a ship showdown. So
I Execute and I have a pitch for it. And I think if you want to talk about it, about the year off, year on kind of thing.
I'm going to be completely level with you. I've forgotten what we talked about. It's been that long. Because we talked about this end of last year, so I'm just going to let you do it.
So the pitch that I have to fix that problem is at the end of every contest, the 4 winners from the previous year cannot be entered into the next year.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you are a top 4 finalist, so that way you have a year off for all the popular ones. So like the Cutlass couldn't be on again. This year the MPUV wouldn't have been be able to be on again. I think it was the MPUV, the Star Runner, that thing. That way you can't ever have like the most popular ship of all time winning year after year after year after year. You have to have a bye week. And I remember someone in the comments when we mentioned that saying like, oh yeah, that's just like every time there's a Super Bowl, the last team can't win because it's too good. And it's like that's not the case because that's like a skill based, and this is just popularity contest. And if you want to rotate the ships as much as possible, you have to do things like that.
Yeah.
And I think they also eventually going to have to increase the scope. It can't be 16. It's got to be like
32. Right. That's what I was getting at. Like they're gonna have to come up with a much better solution for the whole thing. It can't just be a web page. It's gonna have to be like a full system that they have going. Much longer too than a couple weeks.
They could literally like just do every single ship. And and just have like a mega vote. So if there's 200 ships essentially, so within the first round it goes from 200 to 100, and then from 100 to 50, from 50 to 25. Like it only adds a couple of 5 more rounds of voting, but that means it would be fair every single time because you would literally the interesting thing is over a couple of years too, you would also see which ships are least popular.
Right.
In a way.
Yeah. Talking about popularity on the ships, I personally haven't found the ship. I don't think I've found my favorite ship. I don't think I've gotten close. I've seen ships that I like, oh, that's my favorite ship in Star Citizen so far, but I haven't seen a ship that I'm like, in terms of sci-fi, this is what works for me. Have you guys gotten close to that yet with the ships they've made for the game?
I think a bit of it's got to do with release ships and not release ships. And I also think as the game's gone forward, like, so let's look at things that came out like the Carrack and the MSR. Before they came into the vote, things like the Caterpillar for me and the Reclaimer were in the vote, but since they've come along, they've just been pushed out.
Well,
What-
let's
In terms of
say
ships.
let's say
You
in
look down
terms
that-
of concepts, any type of ship. I mean, some people would point at Serenity from Firefly and be like, that is the perfect ship for me. Some people would point at a starfighter in the Millennium Falcon in Star Wars and be like, yeah, that is the golden standard for a spaceship. I'm just wondering, like, what is that for you guys?
I don't know. Like, the thing about those ships, and this is my creative side thinking, is those ships were designed to be sets. They were designed to be a place to tell stories. So they built it as an interesting place to tell stories, not necessarily as a good way to play a video game.
Yeah.
Because like arguably the MSR is the Millennium Falcon. It has the recreation areas. It's got a smuggling area. It is the Millennium Falcon and Star Citizen.
Yeah.
And like the Freelancer is the spiritual Serenity, but the Carrack is the Serenity. You know, it is what the Serenity is, and or even like the Hercules is very similar in terms of with its big bay doors and everything. Down and but the Carrack has it down to the medical bay, the storage areas, the crew quarters, the recreation areas, the dining room. Like it is the Serenity.
Yeah.
I think for me, the top of the line, what I'd like to see in game is probably not the same as a lot of other people's, because my big fan site type ships are things from like Babylon 5, which is like the what is it called? The Star Fury.
Mhm.
Star Fury is is this great ship that was like
The Scorpius.
built. Yeah, which is turned into the Scorpius. It's like the Scorpius is like that. So I've already got like, it's a Scorpius, it's fine.
I'm gonna think Paul was drunk there for a second. I was like, well, it's already in the game. What are you talking about, Paul?
It is, but it's sort of different. But my point being is that like the other things, like the actual Babylon 5 station, the Babylon 5 ships, which are cool, these big rotating centers and stuff like that, the huge ships, you're never gonna be able to get those in game because they're so big and they require so much crew that wouldn't play in the game. And like the Babylon 5 station is an O'Neill cylinder, but I don't think we'll ever see an O'Neill cylinder in Star Citizen because it's just not that aesthetic.
That one of those, the spinning with the surface on the
It's a
interior.
spinning. Yeah, it's got a drum. It's got a drum that's basically like a giant circle, and then you can like look. If you're in there, you look up and you can see like
The other people inside.
above you.
Yeah.
Like because it's so big. There's like clouds in the middle of it, and so it's just this big like.
It is
curved
very
area.
cool.
Think of it kind of like a halo that's just condensed into a very small.
It's like
area.
Earth got turned into a donut.
Yeah. And it's a really cool visual, and it's
Yeah.
an expanse and that kind of stuff. And that would be the other one is the Rocinante. We don't really have a Rocinante type ship either. Which would be a
I've
good
heard
one to have.
I've heard people say that the Hammerhead would be pretty close in kind of like position to Rocinante. Is that? Would you agree?
Probably more like a Polaris, honestly.
Wow.
With the torpedoes and everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
For me, I find the way people votes and the ships that they vote for is I can't actually kind of call it, right? And I sit here and try and analyze the way people vote because on one hand you've got it's not based on gameplay. I can tell you that right now because the only gameplay.
X. He's asking what your favorite ship in sci-fi media would be, and if what you'd like to see in Star Citizen.
I'm tired.
He's
I know.
taking the long path to that one.
I had it in my head, and I just wanted to talk about it. That's all right. We'll come back to it. Yeah, my favorite ship in sci-fi. Man, for me, I'd have to go back to say something like NC 701. So go back to Star Trek. There's not many ships that I kind of really relate to, like that I have a bond with. Voyager would probably be another one. And Deep Space Nine, but like things like other things that I were really into, I was like the show like Stargate. I wasn't particularly into their battle cruisers, so to speak. I do think things like the Scorpius, as Paul kind of alluded to, that's definitely popular because of the X-wing, and I think it would be just as popular if they brought in something that looked like the TIE fighter. You
Hmm.
know,
Who would make
I
that?
thought,
Drake.
well, Consolidated Outland, they do have some
Yeah.
weird
You
looking
know,
ships.
I bet Asperia would make a really cool looking TIE fighter like ship.
Mm.
Anyways, keep
So,
going.
yeah,
Sorry.
no, I'm done. I did want to talk about what I was going to say though, if that's okay. And I
Yeah,
know
yeah.
it's off topic, but it's in my head, and I kind of want to get it out because it's not based on gameplay because there's no mining ship on the list this year at all. Obviously the Prospector and the Mole are there, but like they're not in the list at all. Um, and then I really think the vote goes on what is the most popular ship that I own. What is the ship that I purchased. And when I look across the board there, they're all ships that are in game, obviously. So that does limit it what your choice can be. But it makes me wonder how people are buying, especially with things like the 600i way up there. Like I just don't see that as a money maker next to say something like I suggested a Prospector. I just don't see um, the money raising potential. Maybe I'm wrong in that. And obviously, yeah, you can make money in a 600i and it's bigger and stuff like that. But I mean, at scale. So if there was the equivalent ship in mining to the 600i, I'd have to imagine the mining one's probably more profitable. But
Yeah,
you know what I'm
yeah.
trying to say?
I mean, yeah,
I
it's not
can't.
even, you can't even really make money with the 600i yet. There's no touring in game.
Yeah.
Definitely no
Well,
exploration. Well, not to make
yeah.
money from.
Well, I saw a new content creator. He had a video about 2 days ago talking about why the 600i was the best ship in the entire game, and I'm like, from my point of view, I'm like, you're crazy.
What was the argument?
But his just whole argument is that you could do everything you wanted to do with it, and that because it was an explorer, you could make cargo with it. And when exploring comes out, you'll be able to make money with it that way. But my whole brain went to you can do more with like say the Aquila than you can with that, and it costs a lot less. But and then you got the Carrack. I don't know. I just obviously the my knowledge base and the time I've been here, I've got a different perspective to this person that's a lot newer. So I'm wondering, like we've been saying, the old guard versus the new, is that a lot of the new people just believe that 600i is a much better value proposition than, as Paul suggested, than they say something like a Carrack. Um,
I mean, you can't even revive in a 600i, right?
not at the
Not
moment.
yet,
Carrick's definitely
Not,
got
but you
that
will in
going
the
you know,
on.
future.
True.
But that's a lot of it is speculation based. People will vote based off of what they think is going to happen rather than what is currently happening.
Mm.
And if you can get a cheap, because the other thing is we've always been pounding the pavement about this too, which is is the 600i going to get a price increase when they get that respawn bed? You better believe it.
I
So if
think,
you buy it now,
yeah.
plus LTI with because they always offer the winners with LTI plus a skin. That's I could see someone going like 600i, 600i, 600i.
So here's an interesting complication for the 600i is that we always think of luxury or fancier things not necessarily being more popular, but being more highly regarded, right? So if they're trying to set Origin up as the premier luxury maker in the game, they're more rare, they're more highly valued, they're not as popular. Is that kind of a weird issue then that the 600i is kind of winning a popularity contest? Like, shouldn't these ships feel a little out of reach to most people and more like they are extras? Like, they shouldn't
That's what I
be
meant.
useful in the traditional sense, right?
Literally what you just said there is echoing my own thoughts, because like if it is such an expensive ship for what it is, why is it so popular? I don't get that's the disconnect I don't understand. Like it's literally $125 more, and you're at a Carrack, and the Carrack comes with a Rover and a Pisces, so you could literally drop that by $110. It's essentially, and there is a Rover though in the 600i, isn't there? So yeah, you know what I'm saying though. When you add the prices, it actually is only like 100. It's like what, $70 more.
Hmm.
So it's a weird proposition. I just don't understand why more people don't have the Carrack. And I can hear people in the comments going, "Oh, it's a numbers game. You need more people for a Carrack." But isn't it 5 for the Carrack and what, like 4 for the
I honestly I don't pay attention to the prices to be honest. I try to only look at the UC prices.
The other difference is you can fire all the main weapons on a 600 from the pilot seat. You can solo a 600 better than you can a Carrack.
Oh, that was that guy's argument. It was the best solo ship in the game.
So do you think it would beat a Carrack in the lineup if they go up against each other? Do you think it has a chance?
That's a hard proposition because the Carrack, the cult of the Carrack is a strong one.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, I understand the 600 maybe being a Terrapin. I'm still surprised at the popularity around it, but I don't know if it could go up against a Carrack.
Do you think a lot of? I was going to say real quick, I think a lot of people would vote against the Carrack because of what happened last year. You remember how salty people got when it lost? So for the meme and the almost punishment value, sorry.
Yeah, because it's messed up, but I also don't think that the Carrack is going to win. I might be wrong on that one. I think the 400i has a very strong shot of beating the Carrack.
Wow,
because
that's so crazy.
Look how popular.
It's
how popular it is.
It's so weird to see Origin having some of the most popular ships. I just never really think of Origin as having the particularly popular ones.
Sort of weird.
Do you see a lot of BMWs around? Because that's what Origin is. It's BMW. It's not Maserati. It's BMW.
Yeah, but there is no Maserati. So somebody's got to fill that space, right?
There is a Maserati that Origin sells. It's called the M50, and no one flies it because it's the M50. The Origin is a combination of all of the different luxury manufacturers you can think of, but the 300s, the 400, and the 600 are like mid-grade versions of luxury vehicles, and they're supposed to be a little bit more like the average consumer can get one. Like a 300 is seen as like the midlife crisis ship for in the lore.
If you ever get a 300i and it's not called the midlife crisis, you and I are gonna have words.
It's
I think it's the living name.
And it's the flat cap and nose picking kind of time. And you reach about your mid 30s and you're no longer young, and you're having a freak out because you're no longer young.
Yeah, why'd you get a 300? I told you to get a 600. You have a family. I don't know, babe. It was the M50 or the 300. I didn't have a choice of 600.
The 400 is a camper. Is an RV is what it is. And like in America, for those of you who've not been in America, I don't know, maybe in Australia as well, it's like this, but there's a lot of RVs in places where people who don't necessarily want to camp, they want to glamp. They'll just get an RV and drive out in the middle of nowhere. They still have running water, toilets, AC,
glamping is what's
all that
up.
Kind of stuff.
Yeah, love that stuff.
So and that's what the 400i is. And so if you think about it as in that way, not everyone has a camper van or has a camper or RV camper, but there's enough of them, you see them all over the place. So they're still affordable. But then when you get from the 600 and the 600 is kind of like a boat, more reference, more like not like a yacht, but like a boat, which again people can buy, and with that whole upper middle class thing. But then the 890 is beyond anything. That's the super yacht, Jeff Bezos kind of ship. So that it fits in there. So it's not too unusual that the 300, the 400, and the 600 would be considered more popular, because even in the price range, both in game and out of game prices, they're pretty reasonable for what they do. But the 400 has it is entirely built off aesthetics. The 400i is built off of okay functionality, but it looks cool.
In the inside and out, it looks great.
Yeah.
How does this make you feel then? I've just looked at the prices, so it's 9.5 million in game for the 600i Explorer, and it is 26 mil for the Carrack.
Holy crap!
Yeah. That's a huge jump.
Yeah.
For pretty much the same ship with a little bit better in terms of soloable.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. That really puts into perspective how expensive the Carrack is. How much
Mm.
How much is something like a gosh, what would be
We'd
an
have to, we'd have to look
890
at.
is in the 30s, right?
I
Yeah.
think it's like, yeah, I thought it was 52 mil, but I'm gonna have to look it up. Hold on, and
Uh,
my camera.
to to put to put it in perspective, the constellation Andromeda in game is 3.5 mil, and it's about the same kind of range as the 600.
And then
So the
the
600 is still
600
like
600 is still
9 mil.
expensive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, there's a really I often
32.3 mil for the
for the
890.
890. Okay.
Wow. So the Carrack is more expensive than the 890. Oof.
No, the Carrack is wait,
No,
what?
no, no.
The Carrack is
Carrack
in the
is
20s.
25.
Carrack is 26.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you said it was
But
like
by,
45.
but
It was
by
like, yeah.
economics of scale, it's still one of the best prices for ship for Alpha UEC in game, and I think the Reclaimer was second, believe it or not. So yeah, and the 890 Jump is like the third. It is way up there for its price.
The crazy part about all of this is just how arbitrary it is because there's no way to balance the money-making potential of these ships right now. It's like
Well, it's one of the things we always talk about is that you've got a marketing team that are selling these, but it's the designers that are making the game. And we've always talked about how we're not going to see these come out until later. We're only just starting to see them come out. And I remember the first time do you remember that, Paul? What was the stream? The God tier list for the Endeavor, and you literally have like a breakdown during the video. It's still one of my favorite videos that I've ever recorded. But there's a couple of ones that came out this year was the Hawk versus the Hurricane. Now the Hawk's $100 and the Hurricane's 195, but in game there's only a 60k difference in Alpha UEC, and the Hurricane is actually cheaper than the Hawk. How does that work?
yeah.
From a
It's going to be a whole big mess to clean up. But I also realize that there's just, I mean, I guess I said it earlier, I haven't really found a ship that I love, but it also seems like there's just still a lot of, I don't want to say a lot of ships missing because we've got a bunch of ships. I think we've got over 100 unique hulls or chassis at this point. So I don't want to say that there's not that many ships, but I do feel like there's a lot of holes where ships could be filling in that might end up being people's favorites. Are there any specifically that you guys are excited for or you want to see?
For holes, I mean, I've been 100% upfront since the beginning. Give me a flying taco truck. give me the Cutlass Purple, something like the Cutlass Purple.
The top request.
And I know it's
Didn't
a
they say
joke.
that's on the list?
I don't know if
they
they
say-
did or not.
I think they
the
said
latest
food truck.
Q&A, yeah, food truck was on the list in the latest Q&A, which is
Yeah,
only a
something
couple
like
weeks
that.
ago.
And the argument I have is we have the Banu Merchantman, which is a flying mall, and we have or it's like a flying like market, like
Yeah.
flying flea market, and we have the Kraken Privateer, which is like a flying mall.
Mhm.
But we don't have the flying department store. We don't have the flying mom and pop store, and we don't have the flying taco truck. You know, the food truck. Like you don't have those variants, and they would scale down. Execute and I did an entire video on like the missing variants for like in terms of sizes for
Right,
like, the
yeah.
industrial ships. So
Actually, Paul, I actually would say the Merchantman is the flying retail store because it's got three. It's got three in it. I don't know. Maybe I'm
Yeah.
not. I don't, whatever.
but that's what I mean. It has three in it. We need one that has like a big one that has one, a
Oh,
medium
yeah.
one that was
Yeah.
smaller, and then a small one which is just small. But like a Cutlass Purple where you can like turn it from a food vendor to a shop to a dance hall or whatever. So you could using modularity to change those around to whatever you need to sell or what you're
Okay.
doing, because it'll A, add RP value, B, it'll add it'll give that gameplay that like I want to run a shop in Star Citizen. I want to be able to sell my wares. I want to go out and be a roving trader. That aspect, which was the whole Banu Merchantman kind of thing, will be possible. So you need to have that intro level for that.
Right.
And I think that's a ship that and a lot of people want that sort of experience because they want to be that. I don't even know if there's a game that's like that. I guess the classic space sim experience of like buy low, sell high kind of thing, rather than the space trucker.
I can think of a game that that Piggles, myself, and we've dragged space into once or twice was Eco.
Yeah.
And Pickles was going on the other day is they've actually, do you remember the carts in that space where you drag the carts around behind you? They've now made a cart that's also a shopping cart. So you pull your whole shop behind you wherever you go in that game, in the latest patch. So yeah, that's going to change that game quite a lot. But that's the closest I can think of to what you were just mentioning, Paul.
Food truck, something Terrapin size. You could just open the roll up door on the side and start handing people snacks.
Yeah, or just drop. You'd be able to drop the back ramp, and then have like a little shop, little stall that you can like pull out, and then be like, like blocking people from coming in, but they can walk up the ramp, and you can be like, "What do you want?"
Yeah, yeah. What about you, Execute? Any ships that you particularly want to see in the game coming soon?
I kind of think of it like this. A lot of people still don't know the gameplay that they want, right? And I think it's not going to be until, because like yourself, you just said, I haven't found a ship that I love. For me, I think when people see the gameplay they fall in love with, they'll go find a ship that matches the gameplay. So at the moment, we're all kind of just eating with our eyes, which is probably why ships like the Origin series is so popular, because they look so nice. But not everyone looks forward to the gameplay that they could possibly find. So I don't know. For me, I like the idea of the Reclaimer, but at the same time, the Reclaimer could come out with the final gameplay for Salvage, and I may just hate it. Because we don't know that. I kind of put this back to you then, Space, because of what you said. Do you think for you it'll come with the gameplay you find that you end up enjoying?
I don't think so. I think a lot of the ships that I really enjoy aren't ships that I think I'd normally be involved with. So the Gatak Raylan is something that I really vibe with the design of that, the interior mostly, and I just don't see myself ever really flying it. Same goes for like the Scorpius is a design I really like. Couldn't care less about flying combat. And the Vulcan is like probably my favorite ship in concept, but I'm just not really an industrial player. So I don't know. I think it's a combination of things for me. But
it's the gameplay then that you were looking forward to then. Now you've said all that, you didn't kind of say what you were looking forward to.
Mostly data running, data brokering, and exploration is kind of where I want to go. I want to
like say info running.
Info running, yes, exactly.
Yeah. So Herald and MSR, how do you feel about those? Because they're the only.
I love the MSR. That's the ship I fly most, and I adore it. Probably would, even if it didn't have the whole data running complication to it. That's just a bonus. I don't really imagine a ship when it comes to my gameplay style. I imagine more that it's going to be based on the people I know and the places that I decide to stay. Like I know AstroPub's going to be a bartender somewhere, giving out good information. I'm probably going to come into system, get some stuff from him, and go somewhere else. And having those kind of contacts is something that I think is really important for that. So I never really think about the ships. I'm not crazy about ships when it comes to Star Citizen. I'm more about kind of the experience, the gameplay side of it.
Yeah, it's funny you mention that, because at the moment the best experiences I'm actually having are with people. So I actually think at the end of the day it's not going to be essentially the ship that I'm going to be having the fun with. I think it's the people.
Yeah.
I don't, like when I'm hanging out with you guys or I'm hanging out with viewers or whoever else, that's what I'm vibing with, especially at the moment. But even when I hang out with John and go mining's not my favorite thing. I'm having a really good time hanging out with John, so.
Yeah, this is the kind of game that still needs, you definitely need people to have more fun with right now. I guess not for everybody, but for a lot of people, that's, I think, a pretty common suggestion. So, talking about new ships, I guess, that we wanted to have come to the game, the question I actually had prepared for that was if you have any ideas for a new manufacturer that might be becoming, because I think everybody considers Origin, Aegis, Anvil, Hesperia, Misk, and Consolidated as I kind of like the main manufacturers. I might have missed one or two there, but others like Kruger and some of the other smaller ones aren't really considered to be like major manufacturers. Do you think we might see a new one, or do you think we should see a new one, or see one of those others step up and bring in more ships?
I have to. I can hear Agrid screaming from here. Can you guys?
Yes, yes. I can hear old man Al, from his records office in Hurston, screaming so hard you can hear him from Microtech.
Breaking a window out of the Hurston Business District building.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Go ahead.
so for the people that are not aware, Algrid's really a big fan of Kruger and the lore. Well, actually, you're the lore person, Paul. You tell me, what is the lore on Kruger? As far as Algrid's explained it to me, is they're actually meant to be a lot bigger than they are.
They
Or-
are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we talked about earlier about
Yeah,
the
that's right.
relay system. Kruger is probably making all of those relays.
Yeah.
All those power relays are probably made by Kruger. Kruger was originally a Magnus company, so as a guy who's like his characters from Magnus, a little bit close to the heart, just because they were a Magnus company, then they abandoned Magnus, so it's a little bit more
Like everyone else.
but as a man who's a big proponent of Castra as well, being one of the planets coming in, that's their home planet. Their current headquarters is Castra, but basically they were never a manufacturer of ships or weapons or equipment. But if you own something in the verse, it probably has Kruger parts into it. So like the main gun from the on the Avenger is the Gao 8 equivalent for Star Citizen is Kruger. They made the Tiger Shrike. But they also make all of the parts for RSI. They make all of the parts for Bearing. So if you own a ship in Star Citizen, parts, bolts, sub relays, little subsections, even probably the doors on some of those like hinges. The hinges themselves are probably made by Kruger. They make all sorts of, they're parts manufacturers. They make everything. The only thing they don't really make, the joke was that they make everything but the gun, and every part's for a ship except for a ship. And so they made the Tiger Shrek and the Merlin. So
Sounds like that'd be a good contender for like another warfare ship, because that's another area we've only really got the Sentinel really. Yeah, I don't know. Interesting. I think a real big one for me is Consolidated Outland, and I am happy we're seeing more Argo ships as well. They're two
Right, yes,
designers
Argo.
to
That's
see more.
a company I forgot, yeah.
I watched a YouTube video the other day. Someone was pitching a capital ship from Argo and what that would be like, and I was like, that would sell like hotcakes.
That'd be
Giant
interesting.
orange.
Yeah, just an orange flag flying through space. I personally would, I guess, combining the two questions I've asked, I would love to see more hardcore, very industrial, I would say MISC vibe, but more designed. What's a good example? Almost designed like the Terran from Spacecraft. I don't know how intimate your knowledge of them is, but it's kind of like very futuristic but mechanical. Yeah, very mechanical and gritty. I'd love to see some massive cargo haulers like that.
The closest to that we've got is the Orion. You know how
Yeah.
That be the closest? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so like cargo haulers in
maybe
the
the
same
Reclaimer.
strain as the Orion or the Reclaimer, something like a Hull C but much thicker. You know, I love seeing that kind of stuff flying around. In general, I would like to see Star Citizen have a better handle on scale. I think in selling the scale of their ships and stuff. But I don't know.
There's not many that are super dirty. Like, there's nothing really dirty like Star Wars, is there? Because
No.
they're a lot of the Star Wars ships look really kind of handcrafted, and I think they've kind of leaned away from that because they look too bespoke.
Look very manufactured in Star Citizen.
Yeah,
I mean, that kind of fits more in with the realistic side of Star Citizen, where they want to try to make that like realistic aesthetic.
Yeah.
Like ships would obviously look the same because they're mass manufactured, so they have to have the similar design and style to be able to fit everywhere.
Yeah.
But I honestly, I'd love to see a new manufacturer that is more, that either fits in that, like we were talking about, that luxury manufacturer, like a competitor to Origin, that is like upper tier. Like Origin is consumer, like entry level, and like with some upper tier. I want something that's like, we sell yachts. We don't sell anything but yachts.
So BMW versus Ferrari type of thing.
Yeah,
We're selling
like,
vehicles to Silas.
yes, like they don't sell vehicles to the average citizen. They sell vehicles for people who have like a 600i, but with so much luxury and so much space for luxury, that like view. This wouldn't actually ever happen because CIG is very squeamish around things like sex, drugs, and rock and roll in the game. I don't know why, because but like the kind of manufacturer that would sell a custom version of their ship with a stripper pole in it. that kind of like the one that would have a helicopter landing pad and also a grotto built inside of it. That's like kind of like the 800 890 kind of has that already, but like more.
They have their own
like,
Benny's dispenser on the bridge.
Exactly. Like the kind of ship that you would fly in to fly halfway across the universe to find that one niche shop that sells that one type of like steak that you could only get there, and you go there for lunch.
Just a very
that kind of
very high luxury ship. To be honest, could they? Touring already sounds so difficult. Could they? Do you see a realistic profession coming from that? Like being able to sustain the ships? Not initially, sure, but
I mean, also I like the idea of building ships that are just pointless. That the whole point is, look at me, I've got money.
yeah.
You know, you could have some value in that. You know, these ships could be toured for very expensive, very very specific clientele, and then you have to like taking them around like just high end transport missions. But I think mostly it's for, hey, this is the leader of our org. He has a stripper yacht. You know,
That's all you need.
What about
That's what says
what
leader.
about
yeah.
The other thing we've said about Origin in the past, and this would apply almost to the one you're talking about too, Paul. There's no reason that they can't go into some other professions like science and medical, because they're considered quite high up there. You know how you got like a private hospital versus a public hospital, that
Yeah.
type of thing. So you could have it only comes with a level 1 bed, but it only serves one client, but it has a private nurse and a private doctor. And it's designed to go around and shuffle that one person around that they're on their last life, and they've got a serious medical condition that's slowly killing them or something. I don't know. But yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Getting a little more realistic with the same kind of question. We've got plenty of unannounced ships that we've seen in the Progress Tracker roadmap and monthly reports coming up. Any ideas from you guys about what those might be?
What's the one?
I do, but I'm not gonna mention too much of it.
Okay. I know one of them is coming with a cargo hold, which I think is fairly noteworthy.
Yeah, that was, what did it say? Cargo hold and living quarters?
Yeah, living quarters, cargo hold, and I think cockpit was the last part they mentioned, which, duh.
So the other one that was on and off the roadmap was the Lynx rover. That came on and off twice. Yeah, so I'm trying to think of the other one. There was
there I think are 3 or 4 unannounced right now.
Yeah. You'd have to assume though that there's like, because this is the usual thing, there's one at each price point. So they tend to have like sub $100, then somewhere between 100 to 200, and then something that's 350 plus.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty common thing. They did kind of break that last year a little bit. But it was reasonably within that ballpark. But also generally they also tend to have a ship come out around or something for sale around the anniversary.
Yeah.
Sorry, not the anniversary, the October 10. What do they call that, Paul? I'm brain fried.
CitizenCon?
CitizenCon. Yeah.
No. Yeah, CitizenCon, and then they have the anniversary. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So they have something for CitizenCon, and then they have
one for IAE. Yeah.
Well, 3 for AI usually, but yeah. So that explains the 4 ships.
And they also
Right
they like to try and slip in ships that are kind of corresponding to some of the bigger features they're doing at the time. And with the cargo refactor and the whole cargo hold thing, I feel like that must be saying something about that ship, but I have no clue what kind of stuff they could be working on. There's nothing like specific that I see in the next couple of quarters that they might be aiming for other than salvage.
I see three things that we've already seen. One, we talked about this on Thursday, which is I can see we don't have a lot of medical ships. We have three if you count the Endeavor, that are dedicated to medical. But we don't have any kind of rescue ship. We don't have like a first responder ship. So, but we do have with the Legionnaire a boarding ship. So something like a Legionnaire that's designed to dock to a ship in distress, crack open a busted door, run in, repressurize the hull, drag people out into and get them into like a first responder, like a tier 3 med bed to just get them stabilized. That has like rescue equipment in the front hatch, spare suit lockers for extra suits if you need to, like a fire truck that for space, like a fire truck ambulance but for space.
Yeah.
Is something we need because that's going to be a thing, especially as we go further into larger systems. People are going away from having time to kill to time to disable. Those sorts of ships are going to be valuable for just gameplay wise. But I think that's more of a concept ship, like the Legionnaire or the Legionnaire. Is it Legionnaire? Yeah, the one that the anvil. Yeah. But I think coming up, we've got three major things. We've got salvage, we've got cargo refactor, and we've got bounty hunting.
Yeah.
Oh,
'Cause
you
that's
missed
the three.
you missed one, bro. But that's all right. That gives me because you would literally stole my limelight there. But that's fine. Keep going. You missed one.
Okay.
Go.
And go look at the progress
so I
tracker.
think-
What I miss?
I think
Yeah.
those three are ones that we'll see ships that will be released to. So another cargo ship, something like the Raft, maybe from Misk,
Yeah.
or from Crusader. Crusader's another big hauling thing, or even Drake, which is another big hauling manufacturer.
Yep.
And then you've got the we only have two salvage ships. We don't have a 600i scale, like a Connie 600i scale salvage, which we usually have.
Yeah.
And with bounty hunting, we don't have really. We have two ships which are supposedly bounty hunting, but we don't have large bounty hunting ships. It's an idea that I've pitched for a long time. Is like a flying police station. If the Apollo is a flying clinic, we need a flying police station. Something that security could work out of, and they have their own like interrogation rooms. They have their own holding cells. They have places for people to eat. They have like a place to dock or to land like an Avenger on. So, a larger ship, probably slightly larger than than a large ship, but smaller than say like an Odyssey, but for an Odyssey, but for what is it called? For bounty hunting. So,
Okay. All right. So I'm going to lay mine out because mine are probably a bit more thought out because I've had a long time to think about this. But I do 100% agree with you, Paul. He's got daily prayers in the background. That's why I stopped
I know.
talking. So the salvage thing, I think, is 100% a really good idea because we know that the Vulture is coming, but they also moved that gameplay onto the Reclaimer, so it's not much work to move that gameplay onto a third ship, and I think that makes a lot of sense. It's got living quarters and it's got a cargo hold. That logically dictates it could be a salvage ship. We also know that the cargo refactor is coming and that the raft was originally designed for that and it carries these big boxes. I actually think a land vehicle that can carry those big boxes would be really popular. So I think like the opposite of a mule essentially, but it carries big boxes. Bounty hunting, for me, they mentioned also in the monthly report that they've been working on a variant of a classic ship. Now, I'm only going to throw this one out there, but remember the prison ship for the Caterpillar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that could be one. And the one that you missed was was repair because the Crucible is on the roadmap now. And so they could chuck out a concept for a mid-range repair ship, or you and I have talked about this before, something even smaller than the Vulcan as well.
Because the repair is also on the was on the progress tracker
Yeah.
for early next year. So if they start releasing a concept ship now by Invictus, they could release a repair ship that would correspond with the release of the repair. At least their current plans for it. We know how CIG's plans go, but like that
Especially if it's
makes
military.
and you can't in CIG's defense, you can't plan for this sort of thing. So it's difficult to plan around these when you have things that are shifting constantly. But at the same time, like so they're going to plan with releasing ships around the same time they want to have gameplay for that ship. So
And they have the SRV on the roadmap as well. So that little truck I was talking about where it could pick up crates, it would have the tech in there by that stage as well. You could also, you could have a repair vehicle. You can see there's lots of options there at the moment. So if you just think within those 4 things, you can come up with a few different ideas on your own. But yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying really hard not to let this get. The hard part about it is just that, dude. The hard part is just that they haven't shown a lot of any of, bruh.
This is the best. I love this.
if this doesn't end up on a clip posted on social media or is it in a YouTube short, then you've wasted this.
It's like I every time I think he's done. What I was trying
waiting
to say.
for you to start talking, and then he continues. Going. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Like, wait, hold up. Were you done with that podcast? Cool. All right, I'm going now. No, but so I feel like they haven't actually shown any of those major parts that we've talked about, which is why it's so hard to know. Are they actually moving forward with this stuff? Because bounty hunting they've talked about being the first implementation of the virtual AI, so we know that's important to get out. Cargo hauling, obviously, cargo factor is huge. What was the other? Was it salvage?
Salvage and repair.
Yeah. The repair thing is what caught me off guard. So I only knew the repair stuff that's going on with basically what they're doing with salvage right now, which I think is just the multi-tool. But
really simply, salvage is the opposite of repair. That's what they're basically being crafted in unison.
Right.
Repair is just the opposite of salvage. Yeah.
Yeah, and so since they
mentioned in the
go ahead,
they mentioned the progress. They mentioned the progress tracker. They're working on tier 1 repair, but at the same time, they're also working on hull chomping. So anytime you see salvage being worked on, the opposite of that for repair is also going to be worked on because they're just reverses of each other.
Right.
So we're going to have hull patching with hull stripping, but then we're also going to have whole like
printing
or like superstructure like repair when you have superstructure crunching because it's just a reverse process,
which
it works smarter and harder.
And that is, they have been super mum about anything repair related, so that seems like a really, really good candidate for a ship coming soon. I wasn't even thinking about the possibility of a repair ship, but that makes a ton of sense. Okay.
And it'll be popular too. Like Paul and I have argued this quite a bit, especially with the Vulcan, because Paul thinks that there could be one underneath it, and I'm kind of like, I don't see it. But he is right. Like now there are vehicles in the game. I could literally see a vehicle under the Vulcan.
Repair vehicle.
Yeah.
A literal like first responder service vehicle, like a tow truck. Well, you see them on the roads, especially these days, where it's just like a truck. Like a truck where they throw a bunch of tools in the back and then they show up and they like help you change your tire. Something like that, or a literal tow truck.
And they've been going all out in terms of adding ground vehicles. We've gotten new hovercrafts, we've gotten new anti-air vehicles, we've gotten new like race. I guess those were the Cyclone versions, but the mule carrying cargo. Like they are filling out ground-based gameplay a lot more than it seems like they're filling out the feature side of it. Think they'll still keep going in that direction with another ground vehicle soon?
100, didn't they say?
Yeah, they want to have 100 at some point. Yeah.
That's a lot more vehicles to come. And I'm just sitting here thinking too, like Paul, if they made that like some form of flatbed truck, it literally could pick up salvage and put it on the back of the flatbed. It could literally pick up those big cargo crates, put it on the back, and it could literally also be a tow truck. So it could pick up like a Cyclone and put it on the back. So it's literally a one-stop shop utility truck. It could do all of it. I never thought of that until just then. So yeah,
I'd be interested. I think it all really comes down to what they're planning on doing in the long term, and none of us really know that. I don't think. Do
No.
you? That's kind of my last question actually for this whole talk. Really, is what is what is the long term of this game? Where is Star Citizen heading? I guess medium to long term in your eyes, because I don't know about you, but I feel like it has changed for me. And just talking to Salty Mike the other day, he was talking about how it's kind of changed for him as well. It feels like the game is on a different trajectory than it was 4 years ago. Do you guys feel like you have a good grasp of what we have in store with this game?
Oh, that's a tough one because there's still many directions it can move in. But I
Right.
think the original design and framework from, if you go all the way back to like 2012, where they started bringing out those design documents, to their credit, a lot, like think of Death of the Spaceman when that got updated more recently, that they have stuck to that. It really hasn't changed that drastically. And so for me, I think they are sticking to a plan that they originally had.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of hope that they just continue with that. But I can see people having doubts because it's taken that long. But I don't know, Paul. You tell me, Paul. I
Well,
don't think they've changed too much.
before you go, Paul, I guess to rephrase it a little bit, when I'm
Okay.
saying that it feels like it's changed, not so much in the major scheme of things, not in the sense that we have this grand economy, you're able to take parts in any segment of that economy and the things like that, but rather that um, at certain areas the game starts to feel a little more, I don't want to say streamlined or gamified. I actually don't really know how to put it into words, but I think I find myself wondering what the ultimate goal is for, let's say you are a cargo hauler and you have a friend who is a miner and you're both in different systems. I'm still trying to put together in my head how you two are going to be interacting with each other if you wanted to do a mission together. Is it how close is it going to be? Is it going to be you interacting with each other, giving a mission to your friend, and then that friend completing it? Is it going to be you two going to a mission giver and taking a mission together and completing it? Is it more focused on going to planets to do missions? Is it more focused on taking a storyline worth of missions in one system across multiple planets? There hasn't really felt like a solid foundational representation of what the game's going to be, I think. And part of that, I think, goes to what you said, is taking so long. So I'm wondering if you see that coming together for you at all in the near future.
Do you want to answer first, Paul?
Sure. CIG is taking a shotgun approach to this game. And by that, I mean, like, what you just said, all of it. They want to do all of it. And they're going to try to do all of it. And then at some point, they'll go, this one doesn't work, and we'll throw it away. And so they'll do this sort of like piecemeal approach to how the game's going to be developed. Will you be able to go with your friend to a mission giver and get a mission? Yes. Will you have to go to a planet to get some missions? Yes. Will you be able to give your friend a mission to have them do for you? Yes. I think the long term, the reality is that the long term goal of Star Citizen and like is big. The big broad strokes still remain the same, but the details are going to change, and
Right.
that's just.
Mhm.
And this is going to sound pretentious, and it's not meant to be, but that's game development, because the idea of what you want in a game is the main point, but the actual accomplishment of that is going to change from patch to patch or from developer to developer, because you may have this idea of saying, hey, yeah, we're going to have a complex mission system where you have to go down to a specific location and pick up those missions and get up and leave, and you can all these ideas sound good, but then in practice they're boring as heck. And if they're super boring, no one's going to do it. And if
Mhm.
so, they have to kind of go back and refix it. And that's sort of what they're doing. They'll play with an idea, see if it works, and if it doesn't work, they'll go and then go back to working on what they want to do. See
Mhm.
Korea, the many lives of security post Korea, in terms of how it's been developed over time from various different approaches.
Mm-hmm.
And the I think the change is that we're going to start to see that experimentation become solidified gameplay in the next year. with the pillars being completed and being at least the first versions being put in, there's a lot less holding them back from being able to do that. Uh, missions, for instance, don't make a lot of sense to develop until you have the dynamic mission system ready,
Yeah.
which you need Quanta for. And they've been working on the dynamic mission system all this summer. That was one of the things they were working on in the progress tracker, was building the framework for that mission system, because now they have Quanta working, so they can hook it up to Quanta and then they can figure out how it's supposed to work. And bounty hunting V2 is another good example. There's no point in doing bounty hunting until you have the idea of being able to cross multiple servers and how to track those people, and multiple systems even, and how to track those people and those sorts of things. How do you make that gameplay work? No one really knows. CIG doesn't even know. They're going to play with ideas and see what works, and then go from there.
So
And
you feel like that's starting to come together now, short term.
it's starting to coagulate, in terms of, like, we're seeing it become jello. Not necessarily solid.
It's transitioning.
Concrete yet.
Yeah.
It's a transition state where it's going from being liquid to solid. And that process is going to take a couple of years still. And I mean, Star Citizen's been around for 10 years. It's going to be around for as long as people keep pushing money towards CIG. But at the same time, they're going to, whatever they do, they're going to try to do their best to accelerate and add new content and gameplay as they go along. So, and I think, I don't know how this game is. CIG doesn't know what this game's going to look like. They have an idea, but that could change on a dime.
Is that bad? Is that a problem?
Technologies.
You think?
No, that's game development. That's game. As Jared likes to say, the only constant in game development is change.
It's change.
And he's not wrong. The number of games that have changed within the last 9 months of development is a list that's so long that probably doesn't exist anywhere. There's a famous quote from I don't remember who said it. It was a game developer that said, there are more finished games that are unreleased than there are released games in the history of game development. More games have been made and scrapped than games that have actually been released. And that's just the process. There are probably multiple versions of Destiny, of the Halo series, of WoW. There's at least 3 versions of WoW that exist, 2 of which were never released.
Scott, I was gonna say we the only difference now is that they've just stopped scrapping them. Now they just release them. They're like, okay, here's a new game. Yeah. Sorry, it's not good. Oh well, we'll fix it in 3 years.
Well, even then, they'll you still have complete scraps, reworks from the very base code.
Yeah.
Like Destiny 1 and 2 had that happen, where they had to scrap the entire game and then crunch 9 months to 9 months before the release, and then release the game.
Yep.
So
it's almost any form of creative stuff is a form of R&D. I think I'll just add to what you said there, Paul. Like you said, with what you said there, Space. I'm kind of envisioning, like, say you're a cargo hauler, I'm a salvager, and Paul's a miner, and yeah, we are a little, like, a system or so away. But if we get together, I might have a salvage mission, and Paul has a mining mission in the same area, and you come out, we collect what we've got to do, share the mission with you, so we all complete it, all get a benefit of that, and then you haul what me and Paul gather back and sell it off, and we split that 3 ways. So I think that's how it is now in the game, and I think that's how it will kind of be at its base level. But I think at the end of the day, what they're striving for, you said shotgun, Paul, I'd call that player choice.
Yeah. Well, it's not just player choice. It's also, they don't know if any of those are going to work, but they want to make as much player choice as possible. Like, I almost can guarantee you, people will be more confused in a year than they are now. New players will be worse off in a year than they are now because of the choices that are going to hit them. And that's one of the reasons why CIG is right now sitting there and going, we need to fix the new player experience.
Yeah.
Because
it's only going to get worse.
They're looking at the roadmap. They're looking at what they're discussing and what they're planning, and they're going, this is going to get a lot more complicated before it gets simpler. We need to have something that can fix it. And that's the real reason they were looking at it, because they finally are starting to see, they can see the promised land. They can see the end of the road where a game is going to come out. It may still be years away, but they actually have, like, an idea of what it's going to look like, because they've got those core pillars starting to start. And someone at CIG, Chris, Tony, somebody went, holy shit, this is going to be a complicated game.
All of us.
And we need to start thinking about that now than later.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Even after this year, like essentially the amount of gameplay that we've had to previous years is essentially doubled. We've gone from basic level cargo to a more advanced version of cargo, and we've gone from mine to also having salvage. So we've essentially doubled what we had, and then you look at next year, you're adding in repair, you're adding in bounty hunting, you're adding scanning. Like it's only going to continue to grow.
Engineering and hacking too.
Yeah, like the amount of gameplay that's coming in, this is going to be some of the best years for Star Citizen. And I know that's a common thing you always hear. Oh, this year is better than last year, but this is we're actually getting tangible gameplay. I've been waiting for tangible gameplay since 2014, so it's been a long wait.
Yeah,
it's annoying. Years ago.
It's annoying to say it because it feels like you're saying it every year, but as of last year, I finally felt like there's some real direction in making an actual game, and I've heard a lot of people kind of start to mirror that. It might feel a little disjointed, but things like an inventory and better quality of life fixes and improvements to the new player's experience and different gameplay types, definitely it's doing a lot to make people feel a little bit better about where the game's going. I personally don't know. I have no real clear idea of how the game is going to play. I just know that I want to be able to play in space and follow my own choices. That's
why I mentioned gameplay, because if you don't understand what the gameplay essentially is, like, and at the moment we've kind of been given this broad overview of kind of like they're going to be like mini games, but if you don't particularly enjoy that mini game, you might not want to do it.
Right.
And you mentioned on your show on the weekend, was it Citizen Central? You mentioned that we don't actually have underground mining yet. That there's all these images of the prospector mining down, and they confirmed at the end of last year in the ship Q&A that still is their intention and plan. So we like the tier level 1 implementation of mining is so like it's not even 25% of it. It's just grazing the surface literally. And another way to look at that is similar to salvage with the stripping and then the munching. There's at least only 50% of it we have there. These are some of these systems in this game. Like let's look at mining. How we have it right now. That is already more complicated than I've seen in any other mining game. So this game is going to be quite deep, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And I think that the fact that it's all been based on speculation, like you said, since there's no gameplay, is part of why sometimes it can feel like the idea of the game is shifting, because it really depends on how it's being talked about, the information that's being shared, and how out of date that information is. So when you look back at the design docs from 7 years ago, I don't see those and believe that's how the gameplay is going to be in the game right now, because so much has changed. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be mixing drinks for my passengers on the Genesis Starliner.
I disagree.
I disagree.
I think I'll be selecting a drink. Yeah, pressing a button and getting a drink, but they're talking about like making custom flavors and stuff. And I'm like,
yeah, but
they're talking about
do that with hand. It's a mix master. You just push a bunch of buttons on a machine.
Sure, but like another example, they talk about firing a probe into an asteroid and reading the various pockets of characteristics throughout that asteroid, and then spinning it around so that I can find the specific parts. And I look at that, and again, I'm just not sure. I'm not sure if that's how it's going to be in 4 years, and that's how they still plan on the gameplay being, because we don't hear updates on that kind of information very often.
I think you've got to also look at it like what we hear is generally based on what they're working on. Yeah, you'd have to agree with that. So basically, as we start to hear more about salvage, more about repair, more about bounty hunting next year, I think we'll see that stuff crop up in the ISC.
I do certainly hope so, because that's what I think has been missing from the talk about salvage, the talk about medical gameplay, the inventory, and even to not so much engineering. I think engineering is the one place where I feel like that's still true, but I miss a lot of the detail when they're talking about the stuff they're working on now. And I wonder if that's because it's still tier 0 or tier 1, as they say, or if they're just trying to take a slower approach to all this stuff.
I don't know if I believe I'm going to say this, but like we have that series that we've got in front of us called Professional Point of View.
Yeah.
I think you would. I know you're a busy man, but I
I
think you should
watched the
look at a couple of
episodes.
them.
Yeah, I do. I
You've
watched
seen
them.
them then?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Because like I got so much out of talking to people that actually did that in real life, and that all came through an episode I actually did with Osiris and Badgers, and I've just found actually talking to people that do that real life equivalent, it really added this knowledge base that I just did not have, right?
hmm
And so if you have a profession like you brought up mixing drinks, right? I literally would go talk to a real life bartender and see if you can actually get something out of it because you might be surprised. And that mixing of drinks, I could also see that as similar as into mixing chemicals, and I also see it similar as mixing, the medical gun at the moment.
Yeah, mixing the drugs.
They all have overlap there. See, that's one. It's a mixing system, and I could see. We know CIG is basically likes building stuff modularly that works over multiple systems. So I could actually see that being used in multiple places.
Yeah, but again, there's a ton of detail to be had in the profession, but we don't know just how far CIG is going to be able to dip into it. If they're feeling the pressure to make sure that they get these systems built out enough for everybody to enjoy them, they might say we're gonna skimp on the detail here so that we can make sure that all 8 of these professions are in the next 5 years. And of course, they could work on them later down the line. But I'm talking about a kind of a Star Citizen V1 sort of status here.
I think it's going to be a little bit like most MMOs. Just as time goes by, they're going to keep adding more and more and more.
Certainly possible.
And the main professions at the moment, like mining and salvage and all those other primary ones we know about, but eventually down the line, you might get, say, something like a hairdresser, and they can literally cut your hair and style it any way you want. Like I'm just saying, like
Yeah,
you know
the
what I'm
Vandal
trying to say,
hairdresser.
like how detailed do they want to make this game? Like they literally can just keep going and going and going and adding everything if that's what they want.
Yeah.
But
I also think that we're a little bit more very different in terms of our perspective currently, because our current perspective is CIG takes forever to do something. And
Yeah.
like it takes, they're split between Squadron 42 and Star Citizen.
Yeah, that
and they're
definitely adds to
slow.
it. Yeah.
But we're coming to the end of a lot of that slowdown because a lot of that slowdown is due to pillars. So the game changes year to year. I think by next year, the game will be so different in terms of its outlook and its design that you might see a lot more explosion of different ideas. You might see a design team of 3 people with the new tools they got pump out a new gameplay loop in like a week.
Yeah.
Like the Mixmaster gameplay could be done by 3 developers because they already have the what is it, the building blocks, so they don't even really need a UI designer. They just need a gameplay engineer and a designer to sit down and go type it out. All right, this is good. This works now. Let's pump it a little bit here. Let's do some like things. Like play around with it, and they're done. So like a lot of those things that are more details, I think we'll see in the more often in the game just because of that. So
What
It's
I
the
would
I was gonna say it's the maturing of those tools, Paul. It's all that time they spend on tools is really gonna pay off. Sorry.
What I would love to see next year then is a ISC segment similar to what they did with the moons back when they were working on Microtech's moons, or even this summer when they were talking about derelicts. Show me an ISC where you can show me developers having run through a gameplay scenario and getting it from a white box conceptual phase past design and into a playable state within a month, and tell us how it went. If I saw that, I'd be sold. I'd be like, okay, you guys you're going to make it. You're going to make the game.
The only reason they would show that though is if that gameplay was then going to go into the game.
Right, and
Because
that's what I
if
would
they
expect.
did- If they, well, that's what I'm saying. But if they did it on one and it never made it in, people would be pissed.
Yeah, that'd be crazy. I would say like
yeah.
maybe because we've already seen engineering and all that stuff, maybe if they were like the fire extinguisher. Yeah, let's say they took it, and at the end of May, they were like, okay, we gave 3 developers this in the beginning of April. They went away for 6 weeks. They brought back this, and this is how it plays. We're putting this in PTU for the next patch. Tell us how it is. And it's like actually a believable and engaging component of the game. I would be sold. That would be enough for me, honestly, because the big level things that we get updated on all the times, we're being told about that. We know that they're working on that, and we know that they're making progress on that, but we don't know really how these smaller kind of gameplay elements come together, how quickly and how much they can speed that up. So that's what I'd be looking for. I hope they do it. Anyways, guys, this has been a solid hour and a half discussion. Thank you so much for coming. We ran a little bit late, but I appreciate you all.
Wouldn't be Inforunners if we didn't.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's not quite an Inforunners timeline, but you know, we're getting there. We're extending every once in a while.
I will say this, that this is like one of those, every, once a quarter they bring in the ship team from in Stars and SCL, and they talk about ships.
Yeah.
This is your version of that.
My ship team.
Your ship team comes in and talks ships for an hour and a half, and so
Not as much Drake hate.
no, Drake. We love Drake. I can never hate Drake because they're from Magnus, so it's just like
It works out for them. They're hometown favorites. Why don't you guys, though, go ahead and tell the people, the good people of the podcast, where they can find your own content and what kind of content that is.
YouTube/Inforunners. What do we do? Man, we talk about deep dive a lot of stuff. A lot of vets, I think, know who we are, so we kind of tend to appeal a bit more to the older crowd, but we do have a lot of new people coming in as well that finds our stuff. We talk about ships, we talk about budgeting your fleets and ship recommendations and why, and financial advice, I guess is the way I'd put it. Yeah, but all these boys will be there. We have guests, stuff like that. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I'm Paul. I do lore stuff on my youtube.com/TheAstroHistorian. And you can do all my gameplay, catch my gameplay and discussions like this, Captain's Table podcast, which you'll see again both of these gentlemen on at various times, where we talk about, some stuff like this, sometimes specific topics, sometimes just news stuff. And that's youtube.com/TheAstroPub live. And if you want to catch me live, I stream Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays on twitch.tv/TheAstroPub.
And they are both very much worth going to check out. Like Execute said, all three of us are part of Inforunners. We get together every once in a while, all three of us, but there are quite a few of us that jump in, and I think it really is the only channel, if not the best channel, I got that backwards, the best channel, if not the only channel, that really dives deep into like ship speculation, gameplay futures, and realistically what they could be. So if you're into that stuff, which I know a lot of people are, that's a great channel to check out. And we've got a good episode coming up, I think. Execute in a month or two.
I hope so. Yeah. When you get back.
To pitch Inforunners a little bit more, because all three of us were part of this episode, I believe. If you remember a couple years back, this is for older folks, if you remember everyone suddenly realizing how big systems were, that was us. Yeah. We're the ones who first pointed that out and did videos on it, because my lore knowledge and all of our other kind of knowledge about examining the game and what CIG was doing, we all realized CIG's building ships for Pyro, and then you look at Pyro and then you compare it to even Pyro to other systems, and you see the size of it and you go, you're not ready for the game that's coming.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of things we do. We look at the game in a very critical, analytical eye. We look at ships, we look at gameplay features, we look at both of them together, experts, bring in experts, and to kind of really break down where is this going, to give you a better idea of what the game is.
Yeah,
I think that's the strength of Inforunners. It's not just one person or one creator. It's many of us working together to kind of polish and hone an idea that we go, hey, look at this, and it just changes people's perspectives. Because I don't think I've had a single Inforunner not change my mind on something. Which is, you've got to be prepared to let people change your mind, though. So yeah, it's good though.
And then AstroPub or Astro Historian. Which one is your go-to? Is it still AstroPub is your go-to for?
I mean, my main channel is still the Astro Historian,
right?
Because at my core, I'm a lore guy. But
so should I be calling you Astro Historian on here?
Nah, the AstroPub's fine.
Okay.
You should call me Paul. That's because I use the name Paul for both channels.
It's ubiquitous.
So, Paul Shelley.
It's lore or copious amounts of alcohol. What do I feel like?
Well, the best lore channel, though, to go see just started your huge series, The Full History of Star Citizen. I haven't gotten to watch it, but I've got it downloaded. I am so pumped to get to watch it because I think a lot of people have been waiting for that. The lore in Star Citizen is lost. And thank you for summing it up, although obviously a bunch of pain.
Some summary. My summary is going to be like 20 hours long. Like that's how much lore there is in trying to do. For those of you who don't know, it's basically a timeline. So I'm going from the very beginning of the universe to the current day in the universe in a timeline fashion. So and it won't be comprehensive. I can do my best to be comprehensive, but I'll miss things here and there. So that way, if someone wants to know the entire history of Star Citizen, but not have to do like the brief overviews, they'll be able to understand all of the nuances and other things that have changed, like the Hurston family and why they're all a bunch of bastards. Sorry, Al. You know, the how Crusader is linked with like a revolution. You know, how microtech and things like just as simple as the bunch of the what is it? I always forget the name of the mining company that's ubiquitous everywhere. Shubin Interstellar.
Shubin, yeah.
Shubin. How Shubin is secretly controlling the entire verse. Like they have so much control, it's not even funny. And things like as simple as like what is Jericho? Who is Ticia Pacheco, who is like who the things you see in game have such long trails that go back hundreds of years in the Star Citizen lore, and they're intentional like that so that those characters and those locations will feel fleshed out. And as the game continues to develop, having that information in terms of a nice narrative timeline will help you understand, like, oh, that's why Pyro is so weird. That's why Nyx is the way it is. And you'll be able to kind of gather that a little bit better. And I think eventually CIG is going to do it, but I think this timeline is very important for the average person who's like, I don't know what the heck any of this is. Just give it to me in a video that I can watch for a couple of hours.
Yeah, I can't wait until all of that is available in the game. It's going to be so cool to naturally and organically discover that stuff. But thank you so much for putting that together, because it is a very cool. I think the lore is very cool with this game, and the easier it is to find, the better. So thanks once again to our two guests today for coming to episode 67 of the launch sequence. As you all know, you can find this either on YouTube or on your favorite podcast platform where it is ad-free. Thank you, though, no matter where you watch or listen. It's appreciated, and it makes it all possible just being here. So thank you. And with that, I will see you all next week. We will actually be out of town for the next couple of weeks. We're going to be doing a little family vacation, so the next few episodes will be pre-recorded, but I'm sure they'll be just as good. And I hope you all enjoy them. And with that, I'll see you in the next one.